A very warm welcome, everyone, to our Legal Careers seminar here this evening. I appreciate this is a little bit of an unorthodox way of doing things in these unprecedented times, doing these things via Zoom. It's certainly not a substitute for seeing you all face to face, but it's very nice to see you all, and you're very much welcome. And hopefully, you're going to find the seminar enjoyable this evening. A few housekeeping rules before we start. There is quite a lot of us today, so please feel free to either turn your camera on or leave it off. It's entirely up to you, no problems at all. But what we would ask, if possible, is if you can remain muted as far as possible, unless you're asking a question, just so that we don't get any background interference. And if you do have any questions you'd like to ask us, or if you've got a question that you'd like to be answered, but you don't necessarily want to ask it yourself, then if you pop it in the chat box, my colleague Paige is going to be collating them. And at the end, we'll go through any questions that you may have and hopefully answer them for you. We are recording the seminar this evening as well, because there are a few people that couldn't attend who'll be able to watch it at a later date. So any problems with any of that, then just let us know. So without further ado, as I said, very warm welcome to our Legal Careers seminar this evening. Now, entering a career in the law is very different now from what it's been in the past, certainly very different from when I qualified as a solicitor. And if you're considering a legal career, there's a broad range of options and routes available to you now, and lots of different qualifications. And particularly in light of the recent changes and the new opportunities that have come about, it can be quite confusing to know which route to take and what to do for the best. So what we hope to do tonight is to give you a broad overview of the options available and give you some first-hand experience from people who've either been through the process or are going through it, and hopefully give you some top tips on the way as to how to make it a painless experience. My name, as I said earlier, is Sam Buckthought, and I'm one of the senior partners here at Wolferstans, and I'm also the training principal for the firm. And that means that I oversee our trainees and our training programme. Supporting people entering the profession and throughout their career development is something that we're really passionate about at Wolferstans, and it's something that's particularly close to my heart. I started at Wolferstans at the tender age of 16 on a work experience placement. And then I carried on doing various placements throughout my degree and my LPC, and was offered a training contract and qualified with the firm in 2001. And I've been here ever since. I've been a partner since 2004. So I've seen a huge amount of people, as well as having my own experience, go through their training at the firm. As the training principal for the firm, I can see, though, that it is very different from back in my day, and very different both as being a trainee and also through the studying and the education process. But I'm very proud of the way in which we're able to support our staff in the early stages of the career and throughout their career development, whatever that career path is, whether it be as a paralegal, CILEX, training contracts, or the new SQE. So I've got a number of colleagues here this evening who are going to give you some overviews of their experiences, as well as some of their advice. I've got my colleague Chloe, who is our second year trainee at the moment, working with us, and Emily, who's currently a paralegal, but about to start her training contract with us in September. I've also got Ella, who is currently doing her studying through the new SQE and is our SQE specialist. And Rebecca, who has just completed her CILEX. So lots of different avenues that you're going to be hearing about tonight. I've also got my colleague Emma, who's our HR manager. And later on in the evening, she and I will tell you a little bit more about the firm and also about our application process, which is currently open for all of those different avenues that we'll be talking about. And then, as I said earlier, we'll answer all of your questions at the end as we go through. So to start off, I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to pass you over to Chloe, who's going to tell you a bit about her experiences.
Hi, my name is Chloe and I am a trainee solicitor here at Wolferstans. I'm in my second year at the moment. I started my training last January. So a bit about me, I did a law degree with Bournemouth University. It was a 4-year degree because it included a 1-year placement where I worked at a law firm for a year. Following that degree, I studied my LPC part-time. I chose to do it part-time because I wanted to work alongside the LPC to kind of get experience. I did this LPC during the week, so I would travel up to Bristol every Wednesday to take part in the workshops. And then it was 2 years, so I finished my LPC in 2019. I applied for the training contract in 2019 because I knew I was going to finish my LPC. And I was offered that training contract. I actually was offered it on the last day of my last exam, which was good timing. I started my training contract last January, and I'm due to qualify next year. During my LPC, I worked as a paralegal. I originally worked as a paralegal in the family team at another firm, and I moved to Wolferstans in the second year of my LPC to work as a paralegal in their wills and trust team. It was a great experience, and I would really recommend anyone to work as a paralegal or get any work experience they can. My first seat in my training was actually in the wills and trust team, so I kind of went straight from being a paralegal in the wills and trust team to a trainee. In that seat, I did a lot of different things. I drafted wills, worked on probate applications. I organised funerals. I've done a lot of different things, which I also did as a paralegal as well. My second seat in my training contract was with the private family team. I again did a lot of different things. I've worked on private children cases, divorce, finances, domestic abuse. We do offer legal aid here at Wolferstans, so you kind of get a broad aspect of everything in the family private area. I was also able to kind of do my own hearings, have my own files, so a lot of experience. I've just moved into my third seat, which is in the care team, which is also the family department, but a slightly different team, where I'll work alongside the team on all of their care cases. Some tips from me when you're looking to do training contracts, be a trainee. So I would say get as much experience as you can, whether it's work experience, working as a paralegal, anything like that. Any experience you can get is really useful. If you are looking to become a paralegal and you see paralegal roles out there, but you think, oh, I don't want to do that area of law, I would say keep your mind open. I know a lot of people who went into their training contracts thinking I'm definitely going to qualify in this area, and they've qualified in a completely different area. You really don't know what it's like until you are working in the job. Studying law and practicing law, I think, are two very different things, and so any experience you can get is really insightful and will be really useful for you. In terms of the benefits of doing the training contract route, obviously I don't know much about the solicitor's qualifying examination because it wasn't available when I started, but I think the training route is obviously the original route that people take. You do get to experience lots of different areas, and that's all I can say really with that. In terms of Wolferstans and the training, they are really good here. So in each department they have a trainee supervisor, so one of the solicitors in that department will be your supervisor, and you essentially work alongside them on all their cases, and they will support you. You can never ask a wrong question. They're always happy to help in any way they can, and I've just really enjoyed my training here so far, and I'm looking forward to continuing that for the rest of the year. I'm going to pass you on to my colleague Emily now, who is a paralegal at the moment in the care team, and is due to start her training contract in September.
Thank you, Chloe. So hello, my name's Emily. I'm a paralegal in the family care team at the moment, and I'm starting my training contract with the firm in September. So just as a little bit of background about me, I graduated from Plymouth University 2 years ago now, I did some work experience when I was there, so I really understood the role of a solicitor, and I knew when I came out of university that I really wanted to be a paralegal, get some hands-on work. My first way of doing that was getting some experience with the family law clinic. So that was a free clinic run by the university, and that just gave me a bit of experience into family law. So I knew that I really wanted to work in family law. I went and got some experience in a childcare team, and I absolutely loved it. And Wolferstans very kindly offered me the job in July 2019. So I've worked in the team since July. In September 2019, I started my LPC. I spoke to some of the trainees at the firm at the time, and I asked them about the different routes into the LPC, different routes that they'd chosen. I spoke to one of our previous trainees, Chloe. She's not here today, but she really helped me understand the routes. She told me that she'd gone about the course by doing it part-time and working full-time. I thought that was something that would work for me. I would get hands-on experience and also work towards qualifying as a solicitor. So I started my LPC through the University of Law. I study through the University of Exeter. So the University of Law has campuses all across the UK. The closest to the southwest is Bristol and Exeter. For me, because I'm studying on weekends and I'm working full time, I chose the Exeter campus. It's slightly closer to home and it just makes the time management slightly more manageable. So I then applied for a training contract with the firm in April last year, and I'm starting my training contract in September. So that's just a bit of a background. In terms of my role at the firm at the moment, I assist fee earners in the team. That's drafting things, advising clients, taking instructions, working with other professionals, attending legal meetings. So as you can imagine, it's a great start into a career in law and learning some of the skills that I'll need as a solicitor. The care team in particular is a very busy pace. If you don't know much about care teams, it's pretty much 100% all of the time. But it's been a great experience for me. I really enjoy it. And just the variation of it kind of bringing in some criminal law sometimes and psychologists and other experts, something I really find interesting. All of these skills are just going to help me when I'm a solicitor, and I work in a team where I can look up to some amazing people that are incredibly experienced and have received qualifications beyond that of just being a solicitor. In terms of the LPC, I just wanted to talk about some of the study options. So I obviously study part-time on weekends, but you can actually study online just fully. So that is exams across the year, and the modules are spaced out slightly differently. I think the cost of the course is relatively similar, and you can get a postgraduate loan to help you with the cost of funding the course. In terms of modules, it's varied. So you would do things like wills, real estate, legal writing, drafting, advocacy. So it's really just a variation and does bring in some of those skills that I've managed to learn as a paralegal. In terms of the firm supporting that, they've been absolutely faultless. From the get-go, my manager's been incredibly supportive, always asking me what support she could give me, always offering me new jobs, new opportunities to try and get that experience, even before I started my training contract. And I know from speaking to trainees like Chloe that the experience that I'll get as a trainee is going to be second to none. So yeah, I'm really excited to start my training contract. The firm has been great, giving me study leave, exam leave as well, and just the mentoring as well. I'm really looking forward to working with Sam. In terms of working and doing the LPC, I would definitely say to anyone thinking about it, you need to be very organised. With the LPC, you do have to work very consistently. So kind of leaving it all until the last minute is definitely not an option. And it's not doable if you're working alongside it either. So you just think about that. In terms of the impact that COVID has had, all of my lectures are now online. A lot of my assessments have moved to online. I don't know whether that will be the same for the next year, but it's something definitely to ask about, because if you prefer working from home, it might be better for you. In terms of my application to become a trainee at Wolferstans, I went through the process slightly differently because I applied during a pandemic. So my interview was actually online, and rather than attending the office and doing a role play, I was given a brief and asked to draft a document, and then was asked about that in my interview. If I could give tips to trainees applying, I would definitely say ask yourself what you want the firm to know about you. What do you think is important for them to know? I'd say be professional. It's important that the firm can see you as someone that will represent them one day, and will be seen as a colleague of theirs as well. So take your time, focus it to Wolferstans, the firm. It's important that you know about their outlook going forward and what they're looking for from their trainees and from their staff, and who they want to be in their community. I definitely say research the firm. It's something that I've managed to get a lot of insight into because I'm a paralegal, so I get to see all of my colleagues and all of the insights from the inside. If you're looking from the outside, definitely take a look at the website. There's some really helpful articles on there as well. Preparation and time management is key. Just take your time, get some work experience, and try and approach everything that you do with a can-do attitude, whether that's studying, whether that's the LPC, whether it's the SQE, or you want to go through the CILEX route. Really, that's everything I have to say. So I'm going to hand over to my colleague Ella. Ella works in our court protection team as a paralegal, and as Sam said earlier, she is our SQE expert.
Hello everybody, I don't know about expert, but I will certainly try. So I just want to say my name is Ella and I have been with Wolferstans now for 2 years. I work in the Court of Protection team as a paralegal. Prior to that, I did my law degree at Plymouth, and then I wanted to have a little break. So I did a master's in international relations, specialising in human rights, sort of in between. And that was in 2018 when I actually got offered the job in the Court of Protection team as a paralegal. So at first it was really incredible because it's not an area you learn at university. We deal with people who lack mental capacity, so we assist them with their affairs, or we might make court applications, for example. So it's a really strange area of law, very niche, but has lots of different avenues, and you could be doing sort of anything sort of day to day. 2 days are never ever the same. I now have a caseload of my own. So it's only a small one, so I've got about 10 matters, and I also take instructions from external clients now on my own with supervision from the team. So as a paralegal, I've actually been given a lot of responsibilities, and I feel like that's such an important way to show the firm and yourself how you could be as a solicitor, as you start doing a lot of those roles that the sort of SRA expect you to undertake, and it's just amazing experience. So primarily I'm on here to talk to you about the SQE and how that can then help you to become a solicitor. So there has been a very large shake-up in the training world, and I will go through with you today sort of briefly, and any questions you have, just pop it in the chat box and I'll see how I can help you. So if you're studying at the moment and you're doing a law degree, you can decide currently still whether you want to undertake the LPC, whether you want to do CILEX, for example, and join a law firm, or whether you want to take the SQE. So from September, I think this year, the only route you'll be able to take is the SQE. So you've got a little bit of time left to decide what you would prefer. And I know both Emily and Chloe have spoken to you about how they did the LPC. So I started my SQE in January this year. I do it part-time. It's a 40-week part-time course. They say it's like a earn as you learn, so you can still work full-time in your role, but you also study. So I do about an hour and a half every day. If I want to have a break, I then study on the weekend. So it's not completely laborious, but it is a lot to do for 40 weeks. So I'll break down how the SQE works. So it's 4 stages that you've got to complete. So you must have a degree or equivalent. So your degree can be in anything. It doesn't just need to be law, or you can do a solicitor's apprenticeship, for example. So if you came straight out of school, you can then go do your SQE once you've completed your apprenticeship stage. Once you have got your degree, it's then the SQE1, the SQE2, the qualifying work experience, and the character and suitability requirement. So at the moment, I'm currently studying my SQE1 with Barbary. There are a lot of accredited providers out there. They're listed on the SRA website if you ever wanted to go and have a look. The reason I chose Barbary was because they currently specialise in the multiple choice bar exams for America, and the SQE1 is purely a 2-day multiple choice exam that's 5 hours each day. So my main thoughts were looking for somebody that already has experience in that area, which is why I chose Barbary, but obviously have a look yourself and see which one fits you better and what you would prefer to do. The costs vary. So for the SQE1 and the SQE2, they are £1,558 and £2,422 respectively, but that doesn't include your preparation course. So each provider will sort of charge you their set fee for both exams. There aren't currently any financing options, so you can't currently get a student loan on that. They do have a lot of payment plans and there are a lot of scholarships out there, but I know that's something that currently the SRA are looking at to see whether you can then get a student loan on it. So I would watch out and watch the news at the moment to see where they're getting with that. So currently, as I said, I'm doing the SQE1. So that is a multiple choice examination that's split over 2 days. So it's 5 hours one day and 5 hours the next day. In this exam, it purely tests your functioning legal knowledge, and it is held at a higher standard than the LPC. So you are held at a solicitor's level. So they expect you to be able to know what a solicitor would know. It has a very low pass rate at the moment, so about 50%, which sounds amazing, but it is extremely hard because you're tested on about 12 different subjects in 2 exams, but it is doable, so don't let me sort of panic you. I don't want to sound like it's too crazy. It is definitely doable, and that one there is so that once you've completed the SQE1, your law firm or whoever you want to do your recognised period training with can know that you've got the knowledge that a solicitor should have to start off as a trainee. The second exam is the SQE2, and that one is just practical skills. So you'll do things quite similar to the LPC, I imagine, such as legal researching, legal writing, sort of advocacy, client interviewing. That is over 5 days. So it's a 5-day long sort of exam. All of the exams are held with Kaplan. So they're the only people that can undertake these examinations throughout the UK and throughout the world, I think. But as I say, you are judged as a lawyer. So it really is a little bit of a higher standard. And again, you'd need a preparation course for that. So there is no requirement to have the preparation course, but the SRA say that if you don't, the likelihood is you won't pass it and you get 3 attempts on each exam. The content is actually really, really great. So they break down in the book. So I'll just show you one of my little books that I've got here. You get a large book, so this is for SQE2, and you just learn about the legal principles. So they're not judging you on whether you think something's right or wrong. So at university, we have to examine and sort of thoroughly look through each thing. The SQE is purely going to ask you, what is the legal rule in this area and how should it be applied? So it just tests you on that. So you don't need to worry about looking at sort of all of the law surrounding the area and see whether you think it should be changed or not. So with the SQE, it is obviously the brand new route, and it is the first year that this has been taken out. So they did the pilot study, which went really well, and I am sort of your guinea pig year for the SQE. They do a couple of different type of assessments. So you can choose a 40-week course, which is the one I've done, which is for people who work full-time. They do a 20-week part-time and then a 10-week intensive course. So it's just really looking at what would be best for you. And if you wanted to get some experience throughout as well as a paralegal, I would definitely recommend the longer courses, just so that you're able to sort of fully apply yourself in both areas. And I know the most complex part of the SQE that's come out of it, sorry, my dogs are barking downstairs now as well, it's going crazy. The most complex part about it is the qualifying work experience. And I know sort of Sam and Emma will briefly touch on this as well when they talk about the firm. It must be full-time and it must be the length of 2 years, but that doesn't mean concurrent years. You can do sort of stages. So you could do a couple of months at one place, a year in another. As long as it is full-time experience and it lasts 2 years, it can be used for your qualifying work experience. And it can be in any role. So you can have a training contract, which gives you different seats, very similar to that of the LPC, or it could be in a law clinic. It could be voluntary work, so anything that you could do at university. It could also be any other legal role, so you can use experience as a paralegal towards your qualifying work experience. So it can be used in any way. So I know that the complex part about that is that if you do it in multiple areas, you have to have a solicitor of England and Wales to sign you off. So you've got to make sure that you have a complete training record, and that you are completing the SRA requirements. So that is all online as well, and they have a list of things that they like you to complete and they like you to have experience in. And it doesn't matter if you don't get all of them, but they like to see at least the majority of them sort of completed, and then you sort of get signed off by a solicitor, or like Sam would be, you're signing off at Wolferstans. And then you've just got to complete the character and suitability requirement. And I think that's also very similar to that of the LPC, or something afterwards, where you just get signed off to say that you have the correct character and the correct sort of credibility to be a solicitor. So if there's been any complaints against you, that will be brought into that part, for example. So that's just a little tick box one, and not another exam, you'll probably be glad to know. So that is the round part of the SQE. So as I say, at the moment I do it for part-time, and I do mine during the week and then on the weekends. And I just feel that as a paralegal first, I have gained so much experience that I probably wouldn't have had if I had just sort of jumped straight in. So I don't want anyone to be put off if they don't get training contracts straight away. It's not a bad thing. It's actually really great if you can get paralegal experience. It just allows you to get to know a firm. As Emily said, we've got to know Wolferstans and got to meet everybody first. We've got to see how the firm works, see what departments are out there, and it gives you a lot of experience that you can now actually use towards your qualifying work experience. So if you're finding it difficult, or if your firm, it's very much up to the firm what they want to do. So it might not be your full 2-year training contract as you're used to. It could be very, very flexible now, which is a good thing. But I hope that gives you some information on the SQE. I know I went a bit crazy then with my book and everything going on, but if there's any other questions you have, please pop them in the chat box. And if you think about it afterwards and you don't want to ask now, that's absolutely fine. I know that obviously you can email them to us or find us on LinkedIn and ask us any questions you want. But now I will pass you on to Rebecca, who will speak all about CILEX and her time with Wolferstans. I think she's in the family team, and she can give you a bit of an insight as to her journey into becoming qualified as well. But thank you very much.
Hi everyone, thanks Ella. My name is Rebecca, and as Ella mentioned, I do work in the family team. I work with Chloe and with Emily. So I work within the care department of the family team, and I started working at Wolferstans in September of last year, so still feel relatively new. Very grateful to have moved to the firm during the height of the pandemic last year. So I work alongside 3 other solicitors and a trainee, which is Chloe, and a team of paralegals and legal assistants, and I do have my own caseload. As Emily touched on, we are a very, very busy team. It's always very manic and we always have to give 100%, but it's an area of law that I really love and really, really enjoy. And reflecting actually on university, you don't really study care proceedings during university. I remember when I did my family law module, it was very much focused on divorce, finance and domestic violence. So just to give you a bit of a background about me, I graduated from Plymouth University with my degree in 2015, which feels like an absolute age away, but it was only really a few years ago. And I knew that I wanted to go into the legal profession, I wanted to qualify as either a solicitor or a chartered legal executive, but I wanted to get some practical hands-on experience before diving straight into postgraduate study. So I worked as a paralegal initially at Wolferstans and then at another local law firm subsequently for a few years. And then after a few years, I knew that I wanted to take the leap, into further education. And I was looking at the LPC or CILEX at that time. For me, the LPC at that time, the closest place that you could study was in Bristol. So previously you could do the LPC in Plymouth, but they actually stopped offering that course during the second year of my degree, which was really, really frustrating. So for me to do the LPC, it would mean studying in Bristol, either part-time or full-time, like my colleagues have. And at the time, the cost of the LPC was a bit out of reach for me, but it was also about the associated costs. So the cost of travel and accommodation up to Bristol and back every other weekend or whatever it might be. So that's why I looked into the CILEX route, and that's what I want to talk to you a little bit about this evening. So CILEX appealed to me because it was quite flexible. It was more affordable as well. So you pay for your course on a module by module basis. So it's not the expectation that you pay an upfront fee straight away that covers your whole cost. If you're funding the course yourself, you can pay for your course by each module, so you can break it down a little bit more easier. You can also enroll on the course at any time of the year. So you could enroll, it's not the case that you do the course September until June like a typical university or postgraduate course, although you could study that way if that is your preference. You could start your course in September, you could start in April, you could start at Christmas, it really doesn't matter. What I will say is that the CILEX law school that I studied with is all done long distance learning, and I completely appreciate that that's not suitable for everybody. There are some centres that do offer face-to-face learning, but I'm not sure how many there are across the country, to be perfectly honest with you. So as I had my law degree, I went straight on to the graduate fast track diploma, and that took me about a year to complete. And I had to do 2 practice modules and a client care skills module. But what I liked about CILEX is that actually you don't need to have a law degree to study with CILEX. So you could begin your CILEX training as long as you've got GCSE qualifications. You can start at level 3, which is the A-level stage of your qualification. And then you could carry that qualification on to university level and then subsequently to postgraduate level as well. So it is open to a lot of people with different backgrounds and, financial incomes as well. So with my graduate fast track diploma, as I said, it's taken me about a year to do the exams based with the modules. But subsequently you have to complete a period of what's called qualifying employment, and that takes 3 years to complete. So I have to produce a portfolio to demonstrate to CILEX that I am meeting all of their core competencies. And that portfolio will be submitted later this year. So 2 years of that work experience can be backdated. So thankfully, all of my experience that I've gained within the last couple of years does count towards that qualification, but your final year has to be following your final exam. So that's the stage that I'm in now. I'm in my final year, and fingers crossed I should have everything submitted by the end of the year, and I'll be really pleased when it is all sent off. But I have really enjoyed the course. It's something that I could fit it around my work and family life. So I continued to work full time, and then I studied around work. So just like my colleagues have said, doing evening studying or on the weekends as well. But it is quite flexible. So when just to give you a bit of background about the fast track diploma that I did, yes, there's only 2 core modules, and then you do a client care module, but you don't have to do them all at once. So you could do them separate them out. So once you enroll on one module, you have 15 months to complete it. So you could do all your modules at once if you want, or you could do one for a year and then come back to it if something comes up. If you've got other commitments, family commitments, you could do the next module in a year's time or whatever. So it is quite flexible. And just to say about with Wolferstans, as I'm sure you're aware, we're quite a large local law firm, but we have so many different colleagues from different backgrounds, and we do have a large percentage of CILEX practitioners. So 3 partners of Wolferstans are actually chartered legal executives, and one, Liz Smith, she's also the head of the medical negligence department. So CILEX is something that doesn't at all limit you. You can become associates in law firms, partners in law firms, judges, advocates. It's something that is viewed, you are viewed on par with a solicitor, in my experience, certainly within Wolferstans and in the Southwest. Obviously, I'm not sure what it's like in the rest of the country. But if the title of solicitor means a lot to you, you can cross-qualify. So after you've completed your CILEX qualification, there is the option in the future to cross-qualify, and then you will be known as a solicitor. So I will also say that I recently found out that CILEX are changing the qualification a little bit and streamlining it. So unfortunately, I can't give you any information about the new style of the CILEX learning, but I think that will be introduced within the next 12 months or so. But that was just a little bit about my experience. I will say, if it's something you've not considered, definitely have a look online. There's lots of information available on the CILEX website, on the CILEX Law School website as well. And just like my colleagues have said, one top tip that I would give you is get as much work experience as possible. I knew that when I was an undergrad that I wanted to do family law, but like I said, when I did my family law module, it was very heavily based on divorce and finance. And it wasn't until I stepped into the real legal world that I actually got experience working in the care team. And I've actually done care for 6 years now. It's something that I really enjoy, and I can't see myself working in any other area of law, but who knows, I might find something else that I really, really enjoy. But I think until you get out there into the real world and do work in a law firm, get some hands-on experience, it's really hard to know what it's really like. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. If you want to pop them in the chat box, I would welcome them. And I'll now pass over to Emma Evans, who is our Human Resources Manager. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Rebecca. Wow, I'm not sure how I follow my 4 colleagues there. They're real champions of the firm, and a credit to Wolferstans, all of them. So so I'm Emma, and I'm the HR manager and head of people here at Wolferstans. Hopefully you've done your homework and you know a little bit about us, but just to give you a brief, I won't go into too much detail, but we've been around for just over 200 years. We're well established and well known within the local community. We're a large firm with around about 170 employees over North Hill, and then we've got branch offices at Plimpton and Plymstock. But given the size of us, we still manage to deliver a friendly and family orientated environment here. Everyone looks out for each other at all times. It is all about the employees at Wolferstans. The last 12 months, they've been tough for many of us, not just us, but everybody out there. But I'm pleased to be part of the Wolferstans team. We all pulled together, we checked on colleagues. So Wolferstans is just it's not just a great place to work. You do have the ability to work alongside professionals, like my 4 colleagues have explained, learning from people with so much expertise. They offer advice, offer guidance, any opportunity. Never worry about asking a daft question. Somebody's already asked it before you. But yeah, so they're always on hand here to offer advice. During the last 12 months, we've kept in touch with colleagues. Obviously, everybody's been working remotely, but we have kept in touch. We've done online social clubs, which include, we've had a cooking club, running club, reading club, and we also had an online choir club, but I didn't join that one. I don't think they would let me. But it's just lots, just to keep everybody communicating with each other, and just to make sure that we know that we're all still part of the big Wolferstans team. We thank staff over the last 12 months for their hard work. We've given them surprise hampers, so they all came to their home address. So we had Christmas hampers, Valentine and Easter hampers. They all just say thank you very much for all your hard work, and keep going, and you're still part of the Wolferstans team. Myself, I'm a trained mental health first aider, and we have a list of people who have completed compassionate friend training here at Wolferstans. It is all about looking out for one another. It is tough. We all work hard. We have challenging days, but there's always somebody to talk to, or somebody who will listen, lend a friendly ear. So when Boris made his announcement last year and told us all that we had to be working from home, we adapted to that very easily, and just within hours, everybody was set up and working from home. So the new way forward will be to adopt this hybrid working environment where you'll have the ability to work in an open plan, newly refurbished office, but also be able to work from home with modern IT equipment as well. We're currently working on a definitive career plan, which will provide all employees with a clear understanding of their career path through from a paralegal, newly qualified, through to becoming an associate and a partner of the firm. We have because it is a great place to work, we've had lots of employees who have been here a long time and they've moved up through the ranks. And it's just great to see, like Sam said earlier, it's great to just see people, you know, they started off in one role, 10 years later, you know, they've got their own caseload or they're managing a team. And it is just great to see because people do stay here for a long time. So a little bit about myself, I started as a secretary here. Not many people know that, but I started as a secretary in the commercial department. And that was 24 years ago. The firm supported me with my HR and mental health qualifications so that I'm able to do the job I do today. There are lots of opportunities for you at Wolferstans. It is a very trusting environment where you get out what you put in. And it really is a joy to work here. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been here for 24 years. It really is. It's a pleasure to work here. Everybody is so nice. It is all about the employees and getting the best out of everybody. Yeah. So if you do have any questions for any of the team or anything about Wolferstans, I know some people have put them in the chat box and we'll work through them. So we'll try and answer them now for you.
So just before we go to the questions, just to summarize all of that, and now you understand why I went first, because there was no pressure at that point. Hopefully that's been really helpful to give you a brief snapshot of the different options that are available. We have opened our applications for training on the 1st of April. They're open until the end of this month. And this year we very deliberately opened it so that anyone who is contemplating whether it is a training contract or an SQE or CILEX is willing to apply. Welcome to apply. We are inviting applications for anyone that wants to at the moment. We have no fixed number of trainees that we're looking to take. It will very much depend upon the caliber of candidates that we find. And we're very keen to see any applications that anybody wants to submit. So all of the details about that are on the website, if anyone would like to have a little look at that in more detail. But now, Paige, I think we'll go to our questions.
Thank you. So we did have a few on social media, so I'll get through those first and then we'll go to the chat box. So we had, what seats do you offer trainee solicitors? If any of my colleagues would like to answer that one.
That's probably one for me to answer. So we're very fortunate because of the size of the firm. We pretty much do every area of law apart from criminal law, really. So as far as possible, we try to accommodate areas that people want to have experience in. Certainly when we've been having training contracts up until this point, we've really actively tried to allow people to have 4 good seats of about 6 months, depending upon what they wanted to do. So it does depend on business need. Things happen. Sometimes people move around, but as far as possible, we accommodate it. And if someone is then going to go on and qualify with us, we try to finish their seat in the area that they want to qualify into if there's a vacancy there, so that they can kind of hit the ground running as a qualified solicitor. And that's something that I think we would continue. If you were doing SQE with us, we would want to make sure that you had exposure to as many different areas, because it's your opportunity when you're training to experience them and discover what you'd actually like. It is very different to being at uni. I actually initially qualified as a litigator, and I worked for 6 years as a medical negligence lawyer, but I'm now the senior private client partner and do wills and trusts and cause protection work. So it's good to keep your options open and get yourself exposed to lots of different things.
Okay, another question. A lot of these I think my colleagues have already answered, so if I haven't answered yours and you do want to ask it, just feel free to pop it in. But one of them was, when are you looking for someone to start if they were to be accepted?
It's probably for me again. So we tend to leave that again very open-ended. Last year and the year before, when we advertised for trainees, we deliberately opened them for both that September and the following September. And as Emily said, when we interviewed her, we offered her a placement starting this September, which fitted with her arrangements. So we're very flexible around that. We're very keen to just explore whatever options you want to explore, really. Again, people's circumstances do change. So we're certainly looking for later this year and beyond. We were very fortunate that even though we were in a pandemic last year, we were able to take on 2 trainees. So that's something that we want to continue with.
And last one from social media is, do you offer all trainee solicitors an NQ role after qualification?
I guess me again, sorry. Yes, almost always is the answer. Sometimes people move out of area, so that's obviously means that they tend to move away, but as far as possible we do, because what we have been doing is investing in you and helping you become really good solicitors over that 2-year period, and we then want that good solicitor to stay with us. So ideally that's the aim. I should say, when we interview you as trainees or for any period of training, we're not interviewing you as a trainee, we're interviewing you as the partner of the future. And that's what we're ultimately looking for, is for people who will come, will stay, will enjoy it, and we can invest in, and they will grow and develop along that career path that Emma's talking about, that we're working on more at the moment, because that's what we want to see. We've got a really relatively young partnership at the moment, and most of our partners have been with us for a very long time as trainees and all the way through.
Okay, and now in the chat box, Danielle has asked, this is probably for you, what was the total cost of the SQE?
Thank you, Danielle. So the cost varies. So the 2 fixed costs are the SQE1 and the SQE2 examinations. So the SQE1 costs £1,558 and the SQE2 costs £2,422. So those are the fees that are set by the SRA for your exams. The only difference in cost is who you choose for your preparation course. So with Barbary, I pay just under £6,000 for both preparation courses. So they split it into 2, and you can choose one provider for your first SQE exam and another private provider if you did want to for your second. Obviously, the provider will give you a good deal if you stay with them for both, which is why with Barbary, both of my exams are going to cost just under 6,000. So in total, you are probably looking just under the 10,000 mark. So it is cheaper than the LPC. Obviously not, it doesn't go in line with the CILEX because that is the most affordable route, but it is cheaper than the LPC currently, not by much, but by a little bit. But hopefully that helps. And any other questions, let me know.
And is there a specific route that Wolferstans would prefer trainees to take, e.g. LPC over SQE or CILEX?
That's a good question. And the honest answer is no. There's no real preferred route. As Rebecca was saying, we've got people who are CILEX, who are at the very top levels of our firm and all the way through, just as we have with solicitors. And obviously with the new SQE, that's bringing in a new dimension as well. We've got lots of people who've started with us as paralegals, and lots of people who have just come to us fresh for their training contract or their CILEX. So it really doesn't matter. And I think what's important is that you make the decision based upon what's right for you and what fits for you, rather than fits for any firm. Because if a firm's trying to fit you into a mold, the chances are that the mold won't fit. It's much better, and you're going to be much happier if you're doing something that works with your work-life balance and what you can afford. And we're very open to all of that.
Okay, I've had one saying, do you offer any work experience for sixth form students?
Sixth form students, we haven't done so much of late, particularly because of the pandemic, but what we're hoping to do is certainly get our work experience placements back up and running. Before the pandemic happened, we had some formal work placement schemes, which was more aimed at university students. But certainly we're looking to introduce the idea to younger people of careers in the law so that they can be making decisions at that earlier stage, particularly now there are so many routes available. So it's certainly something that I think we can be looking to accommodate in the future a bit more.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you prefer applicants to work with the firm as paralegals first or during the LPC?
I don't mind answering that one, Sam. So what was the question? Having the LPC whilst working?
Yeah, do you prefer applicants?
Yeah, no, it's either. It's whatever suits you. There isn't a preference from us. We've had both. So some people have started their training contract and they've already done their LPC and they start with us. Some people have been working as a paralegal and doing their LPC that way. So there is no preference. It's entirely up to you. But obviously, to do your training contract, you obviously have to have the LPC signed off beforehand. But you could join us as a paralegal and study your LPC that way. Hope that's answered your question.
Someone's asked, what is the training contract application process after the online application has been submitted? We said about role play, so just a little bit more information on that.
That's again another good question. Two years ago, we had a different system and process to what we had to do last year because again of the pandemic. And what we did 2 years ago was we had people come in and do a mock interview based upon a scenario and then wrote a piece based on that, as well as an interview process. And the reasons for that really are to be able to see people in a acting naturally rather than just answering interview questions. So in the kind of environment that you would be in as a solicitor, asking and answering questions of a client. And we had a number of very willing colleagues who were quite happy to pretend to be clients and withhold information or divulge information depending upon how mean they felt on the day. We weren't able to do that last year. So as Emily said, rather than doing that role play, what we did instead was we did a written piece and we did an interview over Zoom. This year, we haven't definitely decided because so much is still up in the air with the relaxing of restrictions. It's probably going to be a bit of a hybrid of the two, I would imagine. But there will certainly be a process because I've always thought it's quite harsh to be judging somebody on a half-hour interview, which is a very sort of stilted environment. It's much better to see you over a couple of different opportunities and doing different things because that's when you can really shine. And we get to know you better and you get to know us better as well.
Okay, what do you see for the future of Wolferstans? Are we expecting to have any more offices or expand to different service areas?
Me again, I think, isn't it? That's fine. More offices, no, I don't think we will. I think it is likely to go more the other way. As Emma said, the pandemic for us has really kick-started a process that we were already looking at, which was flexible working, working from home, people being able to have a work-life balance and to be really trusted employees that they can trust we can trust them to manage their workload in that way. So it's kickstarted that and it's been very successful for us. And actually we regularly do staff surveys and the vast majority of people much prefer it for at least part of the time. So we're probably likely to adopt that much more going forward. in terms of the offices. The different service areas, it is probably the exact opposite, in the sense that any good law firm has to have an adapt or die mentality. You have to be able to adapt to the changing circumstances around you, the new areas of law, the growth areas, the different things that are going on, and also as to how to deliver those areas as well, because there will be a changing market now that we can work remotely. My area, for example, we never used to do a will for someone unless you could see them face to face, whereas now I can do a will for someone in Spain, and in fact I did do that the other week. So it is very much about adapting, and we are an ambitious firm. We're a young partnership, as I say, and we're not about standing still. We want to continue to grow and be around for the next 200 years, although I would preferably not want to be here for the full 200 of those if I can help it.
Okay, another one is, would we be interested in mature students?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, we've had a newly qualified who had a career in the Navy, and then took a career change, went to uni, did her law degree, did her LPC, and then joined us as a trainee solicitor, and has now qualified and now works with us as a newly qualified. So yeah, so no, definitely mature students, a career change, yeah, not a problem.
In fact, to give you a further example of that, our current head of the Call to Protection joined us originally as my assistant, and was a mature applicant at that stage. And I rapidly realised that she was too good to be my assistant, much as I would have liked to have kept her. And she became a trainee, is now a partner, and is the head of our Call to Protection team, as Ella knows as well. So yeah, no difficulty with that at all.
Okay, just a couple more questions. I think we're nearly at the end of this webinar now. Do you have any key tips for applicants during the application process?
I think this is for our trainees and other ladies to answer.
Key tips that I would give would be, don't rush the application. When I did mine, I completed the application, didn't submit it, copy and pasted all my answers to a Word document, left it for the evening, went back the next day and the day after to make sure it was absolutely what I wanted to submit. Make sure you research the firm, and you know everything, and that's really the tips I can give, is to not rush it, and to take your time and make sure it is definitely the answers you want to give, because you are sometimes also questioned on those answers in the interview. So make sure that it is the answer that you're happy to kind of expand on if you need to as well.
I would say as well, definitely be yourself. Just sorry, Paige, just a quick one. Definitely be yourself, because Wolferstans as a firm is so interested in you as well, because they know that what they put into you, you then put out to your clients. So definitely be yourself. Tell them what your interests are when you're filling in your form, as Chloe was just saying. Put bits about yourself in there, your strengths, and it's always really awkward, I know, to talk about yourself like that, but really think about your key attributes and why you would make such a positive change to the firm, and how you could help the firm grow as well, because like Sam said, we're always looking for people that can help grow to the team. And I know personally, and as my colleagues will say as well, that we can all see ourselves being in Wolferstans for our foreseeable future and want to help the firm grow that way. So it's really important, as well as Sam said, to research the firm, and Chloe said, make sure the firm is one where you would want to be and where you would want to contribute yourself, and just make sure you are definitely yourself when you're there. And even if you're nervous, don't worry about it, because everybody else is going to feel nervous, even sometimes the interviewer. So do not worry, do not panic, and just be yourself.
Okay, so I'll just do one more question and then I think we'll leave it there. But if you do have any that we didn't answer, you can always email us or just send them on social media and we'll get someone to answer them for you. So if I just end it on, after the applications are submitted, how long should we expect to wait to hear the outcome?
It's probably going to largely depend upon how many applications we get and how long it takes me to read them, is the honest answer. But we won't be keeping people waiting too long. They are closing at the end of April, so we would hope to be back in touch with people within a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. Like I said, if anyone has any questions that we didn't answer, feel free to just email them or just send us a message on social media. We'll hopefully answer any that you have.
And I think Paige is going to distribute the recording. So if you know of anyone who hasn't been able to come tonight, then obviously it's going to be there for anyone to watch if they want to. Nice to meet you all as far as we can. Thanks for attending, and wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.